Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aceves?
Here.
Commissioner Geyer?
Here.
Commissioner Hartman?
Here.
Commissioner Kiriako?
Here.
Commissioner Lee? Commissioner Magana?
Here.
Commissioner Mosby?
Here.
Commissioner Nelson?
Here.
Commissioner Patino?
Here.
Commissioner Stark?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lee is absent.
Thank you. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we proceed with the business part of the agenda, I would request that you join me in a moment of silence in respect for those who have given their lives in the current war in Iran. Thank you. The next item of business is the approval of minutes from the February 5th, 2026 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? That's a relief. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Geyer?
Aye.
Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Kiriako?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Patino?
Aye.
Chair Stark?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now is the time for public comment for matters that are not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak on any non-agenda items?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak under general public comment.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Now is time for the approval of the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, would you please read these items into the record?
Consent item number 2 is from the chair of the commission. It is to consider recommendations regarding a salary increase based on the CPI for Executive Officer Mike Prater. Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3 of the Brown Act, requires a legislative body to orally report a summary of a recommendation for a final action on the salary schedule, or compensation paid in the form of fringe benefits of a local agency executive as defined in Government Code Section 3511.1, Subdivision D, during the open meeting in which the final action is taken. During consent agenda item number 2, the commission is agendized to consider a 3.6 salary increase for Executive Officer Mike Prater for an annual salary of $1,091,863.44, effective April 1st, 2026. Mr. Prater also receives the following benefits under his current contract. 1, retirement and healthcare benefits. 2, a flexible spending account to which he can contribute. 3, disability insurance. 4, term life insurance. 5, an extra cash allowance of $118 per month. 6, a deferred compensation contribution of $350 per month. And 7, a phone and car allowance. That concludes my announcement on this item.
Thank you. Just for the record, the only change in the contract is the 3.6% increase in the salary. Benefits are remaining the same. Are there any public comment on the consent calendar?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you.
I'll move for approval.
There's a motion for approval. Is there a second?
A second.
Motion and a second. Is there any public comment?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Any comments or questions from the commission? Don't hear any. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer? Commissioner Hartman?
Aye.
Commissioner Carriaco?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson?
Aye.
Commissioner Patino?
Aye.
Chair Stark?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Before we get to the business items on the agenda, I'd like to do a little agenda management. I'd like to request that the item from the Isla Vista Community Services District proceed first, and that the AI presentation proceed after that in order to accommodate various people. I assume that's okay with folks?
I thought that was already the order. It's business item number 1.
I don't have my form.
Would you like business item number 2 to be the AI presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Would you please call business item number 1?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 1 is to receive a presentation report regarding Isla Vista CSD granted powers of authority and direct staff to take an action if necessary.
Thank you. I would like to, at this point, my understanding is there have been ex parte communications between the district and members of the commission. Is there anybody who's got anything to disclose with respect to that?
Commissioner Carriaco, I had a very brief conversation with Mr. Aboud.
Yes, hello. I had a brief conversation with, I think it was Sydney, yesterday on this item. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'll go ahead. I had a brief conversation with the CSD, although I'm just kind of curious on ex parte for a business item like this. Can I ask counsel, I just trying to understand, doesn't seem like it'd be a typical hearing that ex parte is appropriate for, but maybe I'm just not understanding my form and function here at LAFCO.
Chair and Commissioners, ex parte is not required for this item, but you're more than willing to make public disclosures if you'd like to.
Perfect. So, yeah, my only discussion has been with the CSD. Just wondering if I had any questions, and I didn't. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a brief conversation, I wasn't that brief, with Mr. Aboud and Ms. Castaneda, and basically we discussed the order of presentation. I heard a voice. That's it. I mean, we discuss generally what they're going to discuss. Mr. Aceves.
Ex parte.
No ex parte. Thank you. Mr. Prater, you want to?
What about up north? What about our commissioners up north?
Is there anyone in Santa Maria who would like to disclose any ex parte conversations?
This is Commissioner Hartman. I've had many conversations with Mr. Aboud and people on the CSD about their powers.
Thank you. Anyone else? We're ready to roll, or not roll, as the case may be. Mr. Prater.
Okay, let's get underway here. So the commission has requested a report, a presentation regarding Isla Vista CSD's power and authority. Staff has prepared a report that outlines the establishment of the district, particularly under AB 3, and it also the intent of AB 3. The formation of this district modified Government Code 61250. The powers and authorities are listed in that report, and staff has prepared a brief couple of slides that shows a comparison table. On the left are the powers under 61250. Next column over are the powers that were identified, interpreted in our municipal service review. And then the far right column is the determination that the commission made when you adopted those service reviews as either an active power or latent power. In addition, as I said, we conducted municipal service reviews, and all of that is discussed in those particular volumes and chapters. And lastly, Government Code 61100 is the code for community service districts. And listed within those and listed in your report are all of the powers that all CSDs have the ability to provide, provided that they get approval from LAFCO if they haven't already had an established active power. So with that, that concludes staff's presentation briefly. We will now turn it over to Isla Vista CSD. They are here today to give a presentation to the commission on all of the efforts and the services that they provide, along with adoption of their budgets and their materials that demonstrates their funding that they allocate to each of these services. So with that, I'll welcome Journal Manager Jonathan Aboud and his team to give their presentation.
Thank you. Before we hear from it, Mr. Aboud, Commissioner Nelson.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to kind of set the table with some questions based on the presentation by staff before we heard from IVCSD. I'm just trying to understand, I know this is a presentation on kind of a refresh, but I'm just kind of curious on what is our purview on a CSD or any other municipality on things that might be in or out of their purview by our opinion. Trying to understand that from a point of view, are we somehow, if they're doing something that's outside of the lane of the powers that we have, are we the body that takes action? Or is that something where somebody might go to court on? Or is that really just a question for voters on whether they want to reelect their district members? I mean, I'm trying to understand what we're doing here today with this. I think it's good for us to get this information out to us so everybody understands. And I think there's people out in the public that are concerned about certain things. But I'm just trying to figure out what our lane is as a body. Are we convening? Are we decision maker? How does it all fit?
Mr. Brady, want to answer that? Or?
I'll do my best, Commissioner Nelson, through the chair. Essentially, members of the public came forward at a LAFCO hearing and had concerns that the district was operating outside of their authority. So the commission was interested to hear a presentation from the commission from the district about what authorities are you operating and do they align with the powers that were granted under the statutes. So we're here to hear that presentation. Within that, the commission has to interpret whether or not the functions that they are providing align with the functions that we've identified as active powers for them. If at the conclusion of that presentation, you have a formal discussion with public participation and the commission rests that they are meeting all of their functions and powers as an active service, we move on with our day. We welcome them to continue their operations. If you decide that they are operating outside of that, then you have to direct me to do something. And that is a number of things that you can direct, anywhere from continue our municipal service review discussions with the district. You can ask the district to stop and to cease further operations that you see are outside of their authority and seek LAFCO Commission's approval to activate that power, to a whole host of things that you can do. As of my preparation for this report, I didn't feel that there was a direct direction that this commission needed to give me. I felt, based on our conversations, that they were operating within the powers that we have already identified and granted authority to. Whether or not the district is performing up to a certain standard that the public and their constituents hold them to is beyond the commission's authority. They are an independent district that can operate within the confines of their district. It is not the commission's role to oversight any of those operations.
That's what I was trying to understand, because I know we're the local agency formation. I don't know if it's ongoing monitoring. And so that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
that
we're
piece.
primarily here to see, based on their presentation, did they indicate that they are providing a service that they don't have the authority to do? So as an example, are they providing water to somebody? Are they a wholesale retail water, for which a CSD can be? But obviously, this district has not been granted that authority. So if they're providing retail water, that'd be outside of their authority. They'd need to stop that service and seek approval for that.
But would it be LAFCO be the agency that enforces that? Or is that more of like, hey, the neighboring water purveyor says, hey, IVCSD, you need to stop doing water. Are we the referee here, or that's what I'm trying to get to?
We are the referee if they are providing a service outside of their authorized function.
Okay, and then the second part of the question, I know that other people have questions as well, and I'm not trying to filibuster this, but I'm just trying to understand. Because then there's other I just think about county government and even cities. Sometimes we go outside of our lanes on what our functions and power are, right? That happens on a semi-regular basis. And so is it different with the CSD, with maybe a municipality like a city or a county? Or does that potentially, maybe LAFCO starts to look at whether a city is operating within their charter? Is that what we're going to start to get into?
Right, exactly. So cities and county have a different functions that they can operate under that doesn't require LAFCO's approval. Special districts do, and they have a principal act that they have to adhere to. And that is the measure or the bar of which either they have to seek authority or not.
Okay, so
Cities do not have to follow that function. They operate with the ability to provide all services within their jurisdiction.
Okay, so it's special districts that we have this greater level of
It's a unique
oversight.
function amongst special districts' relationship with LAFCOs and their ability to provide that service. The caveat to cities and counties, if you will, is if a service is provided outside of their service boundary, whether it's a city or a special district, then LAFCO has a role to determine whether or not they have properly sought an out-of-agency service agreement or not.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Assef had a comment, and I've got a comment.
Actually, a question for staff, because I'm glad that Commissioner Nelson brought this up. You know, there's another district in Isla Vista, Isla Vista Parks and Recreation District. And so my concern is overlapping services using taxpayer dollars. So will we, at the end of this, will we need to look at the service review for the Ivy Park and Rec and compare it with the Isla Vista Community Service District to make sure that we don't have duplications, that our taxpayer dollars aren't being spread out among multiple districts? I think that's our role, is to make sure that their role is clearly defined, and then they be spoken to if they exceed the district. And I'm not just talking about IV as a community service district. I'm talking about any district that overlaps with another district.
Commissioner Seves, through the chair, through our municipal service review, we do look at that and whether or not there are overlapping services being provided or serviced by another agency. At the time we wrote the Recreation Parks Open Space Municipal Service Review back in 2024, We did not identify any overlapping services being provided. At that time, they hadn't applied for a special event to host a festival. That seems to be something new that's now being triggered as far as this conversation goes. And when we get back to rewriting that service review for a second cycle, we'll be looking at those services again. But that is something that we'll be asking, I think today, I think the commission will be asking the district, how is that function being treated? And is it competing with the Isla Vista Rec and Park District? And we'll hope to get an answer for that today.
And then we would be the ultimate deciders as to the district's responsibilities and make sure that in future reviews that there are no duplications.
We'll be looking at those in future reviews, and we'll be making recommendations on how to correct or organize the governments so that they don't have duplications. And we'll make those recommendations in those reports.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kiriakou, then Commissioner Guyer. Please.
Thank you, Chair Stark. And I appreciate the line of questioning from Commissioner Nelson. You know, when we first discussed whether or not to take up this item and how we would take up this item, this is exactly the kind of the question that I posed to the commission. Like, what's the problem we're trying to solve here? Because, I mean, it almost feels to me like we're substituting powers for just kind of wordsmithing. I mean, if we wanted to get really technical, the other special district is the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District. It's not the Isla Vista Festivals District. So you could almost make the same argument that they shouldn't be able to throw a festival. But I think the staff report very clearly lays out the powers that the IVCSD was granted, and they seem to very clearly have this power. You know, and to kind of get to what Commissioner Nelson was saying, I think one power that we do have vested in us, where we would be the referee or the umpire, would be if they wanted to exercise their latent powers. If the Isla Vista Community Services District suddenly decided that they wanted to get into the library business, that's a latent power that they have, but they wouldn't just be able to arbitrarily start exercising it. That would throw the county-city's relationship for the zones and everything into chaos unless you had an orderly process. LAFCO would then play a role there. So this is why when we talked about this in December, I suggested that if we were going to have this item, rather than it being focused on one specific agency, that it be a broader discussion of what community service districts are allowed to do and what our recreation and park districts allowed to do, rather than focusing on one specific agency in response to a public comment that was sort of creating or alluding to a public controversy, because it really feels like we're picking on one district that seems to have the power quite literally to do what they're doing, but we're sitting here and discussing whether or not we need to review it or do a new municipal service review, which would also be an expenditure of public funds and potentially a waste of public funds. So at least in my view. So I continue to be a little bit baffled about why we're here today, but it was nice to learn a little bit more about what the CSD can do and what CSDs can do generally.
Best case, we'll be less baffled at the conclusion of the presentation than we were at the beginning. Commissioner Guyer.
Well, I share the same concerns over why this is here. I think that some of these questions certainly should have been asked and answered during the municipal service review. To me, it looks, I guess I'll say, ridiculous for us to be questioning stuff after we just finished their municipal service review and didn't raise any issues with it. For me, when I first got the agenda and stuff, I did call the EO. I did question why it was on an action agenda rather than an information agenda. And I know this, we've been playing verbal volleyball with this for quite a while, and I expected it was going to be under an information item. I do feel having something on an action agenda should have had a lot of work done prior to being placed on an action agenda, a lot of interaction with the district. Concerns, to my knowledge, I have questioned several times, have we received a formal complaint? I mean, we're not really the complaint department. Once a district's formed, there's a process to go through, and I think the normal process would be to go to the district first and complain. So I'm really uncomfortable with this being on the action agenda, and I did inquire with LAFCO council. We could take it off the action agenda and place it on the information agenda, and I think that would be a courteous thing to do for the district.
Well, I'm not going to change the agenda. I do have a couple of remarks that I'd like to make, and I'd like the EO to confirm or council to confirm the accuracy of what I'm saying. My understanding is that our commission, as a condition of formation, was required to identify which powers that the IVCSD was exercising, which were active and which were latent. And my understanding is over the course of the first round of municipal service reviews, that each of those particular powers specified in their act, the AB3, was identified and a decision was made as to whether they were active or latent, as is indicated, I think, on the EO's slide. So that's been discharged. Our duties under the condition of formation are completed. So they're, at this point, I think like pretty much any other community services district, except they have a peculiar statute that gives them specific authorities. And in one case, they're specifically prohibited from interfering with the IV Rec and Parks District. At this point, my understanding is that a new round of municipal service reviews are commencing. And that starts with the public safety agencies, if I have that correct. And in the course of that, the IVCSD will be reviewed for their public safety activities, and our EO will make whatever recommendations he cares to make with respect to that. Other than that, I'm not aware of any prosecutorial substantive oversight powers that we actually have. If we got information that a district, any district, was doing something wrong, depending on whether it would be civil or criminal, we would, in the course of business, refer it either to the district attorney or the civil grand jury, depending on the context, and that's what the appropriate action would be. At this point, I think we're just here to hear from the district. I'm just not aware at this point in time if there's any action that we would be, I don't know if entitled is the right word, but that there wouldn't be any action we would necessarily be able to take in that context. I'd just like to hear the information. So, did I say that correctly, Mr. Prater?
Chair Stark, that is correct.
Thank you. In that case, I would ask the district to come forward, and I'd call Mr. Abood, if that is Mr. Abood. I recognize Ms. Topliff, High Carry. Haven't seen you in a while.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Abood. I'm the general manager for the Isla Vista Community Services District. We're happy to be here and provide information as requested. I'd like to start with our agenda of this presentation. We want to introduce ourselves, back to some commissioners who might not know us as well, give an overview of all of our service areas, and then talk specifically about our application of some of our active powers with the Compost Collective and the festival. And I think this might be slightly cut off, but I think we'll be okay. So, introduction. You know me. I want to invite our staff to come and introduce themselves as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jenna Norton, the Public Works and Sustainability Director for the IVCSD. I lived in Isla Vista for 5 years and have worked for the CSD for almost 4, so been a community member for about 9 years.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sydney Castaneda. I'm the Assistant General Manager with the district. I have been with the district for about 5 years now, previously as the Community Engagement Director, and I've lived in this community for about 15 years. Thank you.
15 years in Isla Vista as well. All right, so some quick facts about Isla Vista. This is what we know from the census, so I cited my data as best as I could. The information is murky sometimes at best, but we know that there's 15,000 people who live in Isla Vista with a density of 28,000 per square mile. We're half a square mile. About 11,000 UCSB students out of that 15,000, 300 youth under 18, 350 seniors, and then about 4,000 other adults. We don't have strong categorization of them, but they're the parents of the youth, the city college students, and long-term renters. And then overlapping with some of these numbers are the 200 owner-occupied homeowners, people who own the home that they live in. And in the area, we have an additional 10,000 UCSB students who frequently come into Isla Vista and utilize our services. Our mission for the Ivy Community Services District, quality of life and public safety, and providing a local voice. Our vision and our values, again, we are a voice for Isla Vista, by Isla Vista, building the community we deserve, and that is what we believe very strongly, that we do deserve a lot better than in Isla Vista than we've had in the past. And our governing authority framework. So we have Government Code Title VI, Community Services District, Division 3. That is the overall general CSD law. As mentioned, we have a special section, it's Government Code 61-250, and we have two measures that the voters have approved with over 80% support, Measure E, which formed the district, and Measure R, which is our utility user tax passed in June 2018. Oh, shoot. This is a little cut off again, so I'll just try to remember what the last bullet points are. But this is what the legislative findings are on what community services districts are for. And again, it's services that promote peace, health, safety, and public welfare. And I think it just repeats that at the bottom once again. Another part of the legislative findings of what CSDs are for, again, it's providing locally adequate levels of public facilities and services. And potentially a bridge to cityhood, we'll see. And another, again, part of the legislative intent, and I bolded the very key line, which is to meet the diversity of local conditions, circumstances, and resources. The legislature could not figure out what happens in every community in California, but provided for these districts to meet the local needs. And once again, more legislative intent language, and I bolded a key one. Well, there's one that's crossed out, which is eminent domain. We're the only district in California that does not have eminent domain. We have a couple things that other people don't have, but that's one we don't. But there's a bold N in the first column, governance powers, to take any and all actions necessary for or incidental to the powers expressed or implied in this division. So the legislature understands that the specific sentences in the powers code doesn't express everything that's needed to do to perform government services. This is what's in Government Code 61-250. It was already shown previously in the slides. And these are the shorthand names we have for our powers. So the APC, Area Planning Commission, and the MAC, those we have not been using. Tenant mediation is a very broad power that's unique to us. Parking is another one that's unique to us, and it is parking as per the Parking District Law of 1951. Supplemental police protection, that's another unique service for us, which is contracting specifically with the county or the University of California to provide police protection services. This is the one in question today, community facilities. So it's to acquire, construct, improve, maintain, and operate community facilities, including but not limited to. And that's a very key line because it broadens the horizon. Community centers, libraries, theaters, museums, cultural facilities, and childcare facilities. And so again, we're on the operating end of here, and that's what we'll talk more about later. And then sidewalks, lighting, gutters, and street trees, and that is to do that in coordination with the County of Santa Barbara, which Jenna does very frequently. Some more on powers. We're the only district with a utility users tax in the state of California. We have 5 elected board members, 1 appointed by the county and 1 appointed by UC Santa Barbara. Again, we don't have eminent domain, and very specifically, we're not able to supplant the level of services currently provided by the county, IVRPD, or UCSB, or any other service provider. So we can supplement, but not supplant. And then we just have inherent government functions like administration and communication and intergovernmental advocacy, which is, I assume, what we're here doing today. And our board, these are our board members. They're excellent. I think they're all UCSB alums and or current students.
Do you have any vacancies on the board?
We have no
Time.
vacancies. We have a full-time staff of 8 and a part-time staff of at least 22. It fluctuates. And then our contracted professionals are our accountant, Carrie Troop, who I think many of you know, and Alshire Winder is our legal firm. Our budget, I got to say, IVCSD might be the only special district that is very strict on zero-based budgeting. We construct our budget from scratch every year. Every dollar is accounted for and what it does, and that's what's in the attachment for you today. And we do an extensive community engagement process to also build our budget. As you can see, the top line numbers, 1.1 million or 1.2 million on salaries and benefits, 700,000 on services and supplies, insurance and capital. The capital is a one-time expense for starting up our parking program. And the utility user tax is thankfully bringing in 1.5 million currently. UCSB has maintained their commitment of $200,000 a year for 7 years. We're on the second tranche of 7 years now, so they did the first 7 years, and now we're on the second one. And then we have a variety of grants and other ways we bring in funds.
So just so it's clear, where you say Measure R, that's your utility users tax revenues,
Yes,
right?
yes, and we will have a slide on Measure R later in the presentation. How does IVCSD think about problems? We're very much an outcome-oriented organization, so we think about the inputs we have, which is our staff time, our dollars invested. We look at outputs, how much trash we might pick up, how much litter we pick up, but our actual goal is the outcome of clean streets, no trash on the street. So if that is accomplished in a different way than just constantly picking up litter, we're all for it. That's our framework. What do we invest? What does our investment do? And are we actually hitting the outcome we want for our community? So you can see some of our outcomes are having a safe, healthy, and enjoyable community for all residents, especially on weekend nights and days such as Deltopia. We want to have a civically engaged community that's, with civic engagement that's meaningful, inclusive, and helps shape our decisions. We'd love to have, Isla Vista residents enjoy a sustainable and high quality of life in their housing, parking, transportation, and neighborhood beauty. And that we have a growing level of self-governance, sufficient resources to meet our own needs, and confidence in the efficient use of existing resources. Isla Vista has so many different local government agencies serving it, so many streams of revenue going different places, and we want to make sure that that's all being aligned and deployed in an efficient way to meet the outcomes we believe we deserve. And some of our big accomplishments in the last, it's 9 years. Our birthday is coming up in a couple days, March 7th. But we passed Measure R. That was required to maintain the existence of the district. We received a second $1.4 million from UCSB, thanks to the success of the first one. We got the Ivy Community Center opened in partnership with the County of Santa Barbara. We coordinated local COVID-19 response back when that was happening, which in other unincorporated areas may not have had a district like ours to help do that. We did the first Isla Vista mobility plan, brought in funding from the state for that, and then translated that immediately into $500,000 in Measure A funds for sidewalk improvements. We got an award for our public outreach for the mobility plan. We secured, working with the county, local government ability to have sanctioned outdoor festivals, and so that's why we're here today. Last week, we worked with the county Public Works Department to get an amendment to the county waste ordinance, which hasn't been updated since 1995, and thanks to the research we did, led to that improvement. And then we also installed the first health and safety vending machine in California at our community center. It's part of the community center services. All right, so now I'm going to go over our different service areas and what they do. We're going to quickly go through these. So our operations, every district needs operations, and our operation area, we've secured so far in just 5 years, $500,000 in external grants, so not needing to use taxpayer funds, and we've had over 200 Brown Act meetings in our existence. And so again, this is like myself and Sydney, our attorney, our accountant, and we just keep things going clean. We've had clean audits as well this whole time too, so we've been running a clean ship. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Jenna, who's going to talk about our Public Works and Sustainability Department.
All right, hello. So in this section, I'm going to be talking about how we exercise our powers surrounding sidewalks, lighting, gutters, trees, graffiti abatement, and of course, parking. So, through the Isla Vista Beautiful program, we upkeep our community by monitoring graffiti, we pick up trash and glass, and we also monitor infrastructure issues in the public right-of-way. These before and after photos represent a very small portion of what our team has done, but since 2024, we've removed over 1,300 instances of graffiti. So you could just imagine the difference if all of that graffiti still existed in our community. Next is public art. So art is extremely valued in our community, and we believe that it's key to cultivating community pride and discouraging graffiti. So we've installed over 8 murals in the past 2 years, and we've also recently revamped our Welcome to Isla Vista sign, which was huge. So next, through our lighting distribution initiative, we provide free outdoor rated light fixtures to tenants and property owners in order to light the public right-of-way. We also fund public restrooms in order to discourage public urination and divert folks from the cliffs. So next, and this is huge, is our move-in and move-out initiatives. These initiatives take a holistic approach to student turnover by combining education, accessible ways to properly donate items or properly dispose of or donate items, heavy-duty litter pickup, and strong community partnerships. We've curated one of the most comprehensive approaches being used in college towns across the country. So next, in Isla Vista, we have very specific waste challenges as well as waste management services. So in order to work with that, we've created some very custom and engaging outreach material to educate residents on these topics. So next is our tree distribution program. So Isla Vista has much fewer trees than surrounding areas, and through this initiative, we distribute free trees to property owners in hopes of bringing the many benefits of trees back into our community. And then, of course, there's parking. I know it's a little bit weird on the screen, but Isla Vista is over 105% capacity when it comes to on-street parking. We are finally launching our parking compliance program in April. We've been working really hard on it, and by taking a community-centered and education-first approach, we will be improving public safety and accessibility in our community. And lastly, I just want to talk on parking alternatives. So we've been working really hard to educate residents about public transportation, local resources, and also improving mobility infrastructure. And through doing all of this, our hope is to encourage a car-free lifestyle in Isla Vista. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about our community programs and engagement efforts, as well as housing and public safety. So the Ivy Community Center is a great example of the district stepping in where a gap existed when the county could not, as owners of the buildings. The Ivy CSD transformed the buildings into the vibrant community hub that they are today. We've hosted over 5,700 events, creating one of the few shared gathering spaces in Isla Vista. Another program that we created is the Survivor Resource Hub. It brings together trusted local resources in one place, making it easier for both survivors and allies to access support in a college community where sexual violence occurs at disproportionately high rates. The Ivy CSD Community Gardens provide green space in one of the most densely populated areas of Santa Barbara County, giving residents a place to grow food, learn sustainable gardening practices, and just build community. And community engagement is a huge part of our work. Through our outreach efforts, residents have a real voice in shaping local decisions. Our outreach of the Ivy Mobility Plan, as Jonathan mentioned, did win the 2022 CSDA Exceptional Public Outreach and Advocacy Award. And again, another unique effort is our health and safety vending machine. We provide free 24/7 access to life-saving supplies like Narcan and other health resources to really help reduce overdose risk and support the well-being of Isla Vista residents. We also run the Civic Leadership Initiative, which introduces students and residents to local government, empowering our next generation of leaders to understand and participate in civic life. Last year, we had 19 graduates of this program. And for over 20 years, the Isla Vista Community Network has brought together residents, local agencies, and campus partners to coordinate efforts and share information focused on issues that directly impact Isla Vista. In a community where nearly all residents are renters, we offer a housing mediation and legal advice program that provides neutral support for both tenants and landlords to help reduce housing conflicts. And just this fiscal year, we've had 73 inquiries and facilitated 11 mediations. And that brings IV services to a similar level as the city of Santa Barbara. And now I'll talk about public safety efforts. So our safety stations are an important program providing a visible safety presence in Isla Vista on busy nights, offering water, peer-to-peer safety escorts, and just overall support with 927 safety escorts provided since 2021. Through IV Safe, the district convenes 40 agencies to coordinate public safety planning and preventative strategies, and we continue the work that was first launched by District Attorney Joyce Dudley, and now it's led by the IVCSD. I think we all can agree that Isla Vista's cliffside is beautiful, but it's also very dangerous. Our cliff safety efforts focus on prevention through infrastructure advocacy, education, and partnerships designed to reduce the risk of tragic accidents. And I think across all of these programs that you heard about today, the goal is the same, creating a safer, more connected, and more supported Isla Vista. Thank you. I'll turn it.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the Community Festival and Compost Collective. This is just restating some things from before, but we have express authority, the powers in 61-250, the implied and incidental authority, and then the interrelated powers and how they combine together. We saw this already, we saw this already, and we saw this one already. So the Compost Collective is a very small program that Isla Vista CSD runs. We are not a waste manager. We're not here to replace Marburg or anything that the county does, but we're really providing a community gathering space, a way to provide quality compost to make the gardens that we do operate more abundant. And it is just a way for people to come together, hang out, learn about waste and food waste and how to compost. But we are not a composting agency, and no one's relying on us for their compost. It's, the actual advice is to put it in your bin and it'll be sorted at the Tahigas landfill. So that's a small one. The Isla Vista Spring Festival, recently announced name, Soultopia. It is a public safety initiative. And what I said at the Board of Supervisors just a couple days ago is that we're not doing this for the sake of doing it. We're not. We're doing this for public safety. We want to see zero medical calls on that day. We want to see 0 arrests and citations. We want to see less people near the bluff's edge. We don't want to see a riot like we saw in 2014 when there was abandoned amplified music that year. So we're doing this to keep our community safe, not to just throw an event. So now I'll talk about some of our powers and how this festival integrates with them. So there's the community facilities power, which again is a broad authority that says including but not limited to community centers and more. The way we see this is that the spaces that we're activating on that day temporarily, such as the street, is a temporary community and cultural facility. So we don't have much in Isla Vista. So we have the parks and we have the streets. And we are using those that day. Full collaboration with Ivy Rec and Park District. They're supportive, and we thank them for that. But these are temporary community facilities for the day of. Second, our supplemental police protection power. The County Board of Supervisors approved a permit on Tuesday for the IVCSD to host an outdoor festival on April 4th. And we view that as a contract with the county that we have to throw a safe event. And part of that contract is to provide over 70, it says 50, it's 70 now, security officers so that we don't need to have law enforcement there. Even though we will have a law enforcement presence, within our festival blueprint of about 4 to 8 officers, it's not the 300 that are going to be on Del Playa and Salvador Tarde. So we're saving the county money by providing supplemental protection services.
They granted you the permit?
We did get the permit. Unanimous vote. Thank you to our Board of Supervisors. Next is the sidewalks, lighting, and gutters powers. So by having a organized event, we are able to divert waste, whether that's litter or human waste, away from the public streets and into coordinated areas such as Marburg bathrooms, trash cans that we deploy across the community. And so we're maintaining our public space and making sure that they're not overcrowded and properly crowd managed. That's how we're using this power. Next, the voters. They are the ultimate authority in California, after all, and our tax, Measure R, very clearly said to operate community facilities and events. And so the voters approved this with over 80% of the vote in 2018. And we were very transparent that that's what events meant in the campaign. The county festival ordinance, again, this is the 6-7.10 that was specific to Isla Vista that was amended this January, and it very expressly allows for events sponsored by local agencies. So it contemplates local agencies putting on events and allows for it. And this is maybe a stretch, but not really, but a park district in another city in California put on an event within a city, and the Attorney General recognized that special districts may conduct special events pursuant to their express and implied authorities. So the Attorney General opinion is very strong on this one. And then the general public health and safety powers of all government. Again, what we're doing is going to mitigate the risks associated with unmanaged gatherings. We're going to centralize activity and manage it safely. We're going to reduce the strain on the emergency response, which has been a problem in the past. We're going to help facilitate interagency coordination. That's been a big part of our planning efforts. And again, we're just reducing the need to use other public safety measures such as law enforcement, fire department, LEMSA. We are trying to reduce the need on those and get to a better place, healthier place as a community. And finally, again, this is, like I said, it's an integrated exercise of our activated powers. We do need to deploy 6 different abilities to make this happen, but I think they do all come together to provide, this is a how. The festival is a how, it's not a what. It's how we're achieving public safety. It's how we're achieving operation of community facilities. It's how we are meeting the goals that we need of public health and safety. It's not an end within itself. It is something we're doing towards a goal of public safety. Thank you. The best is yet to come. It's only been 9 years. We've got more to go, but thank you for listening and happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for your optimism. I think now is the appropriate time for commission comments or questions. Do any commissioners have any questions other than were previously expressed? Well, you can even repeat the same questions if you like. Caught me on a rare good day. Commissioner Guyer.
I'd like to thank you for the presentation. It's a good community service. I have a long history in Isla Vista. I think I came out there in 1969 when I first got out of the service. And I've seen a lot of changes over the years, but there's no doubt in my mind that IVCSD is a positive impact on the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is Commissioner Hartman up north.
Yes, Commissioner Hartman, up north.
Yeah, well, I thought that was a super presentation, and really, I think the CSD, it's indicative of how it's managed, how it operates. That was superb. I did have a question about latent authorities. Is there a period of time by which they have to be exercised, or do they just reside latent in perpetuity?
I'd probably counsel that, answer that. I would think.
So, Chair and Commissioners, there currently is no provision in AB3, which created the IVCSD, that would put time constraints on exercising latent powers. So I'd say at this point in time, there is no time constraints.
Thank you. So my impression would be if it's in the community services district as an appropriate power of a community services district, it can be exercised as a latent power. Is that basically correct? Thank you. Anyone else? Ready for public comment?
I just wanted clarification. This is Commissioner Hartman again. I think, Chair Stark, you confused the issue for me. If I understand what the attorney said, these latent powers reside quietly, but I think earlier our executive director stated that to activate the power, then it has to come back to the LAFCO board. It can't just happen automatically. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, Counsel.
Chair and Commissioners, that's correct. There's actual language in AB3, which created the IVCSD, that says that following the creation of the district may petition the Santa Barbara Local Agency Formation Commission pursuant to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberger Local Government Reorganization Act to exercise new or different functions or classes of services listed in Government Code Section 61100, as Mr. Prater presented to you previously. So those powers can be exercised at a later time, but it is subject to LAFCO's review and approval.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I actually have a couple fairly simple, straightforward questions. With respect to the legal advice that is related to your tenant mediation program, my understanding is that basically what you do is refer people, tenants, to lawyers. Do you also refer landlords to lawyers by any chance?
Yes, we work with both tenants and landlords, and we provide simple legal advice. We're not someone's attorney in any case, but we provide clarifications of what the law is. So we let them know this is what California law says. If you need legal representation, you can go to different agencies, but we provide the facts of the law to tenants and landlords who ask as a means towards mediation. Some might be confused, do I even need to mediate, or is the law being broken? And so we provide some factual information in that area.
Thank you. I have a question, with respect to your tax revenue. My understanding is that the tax is now set at the maximum of 8% thanks to LAFCO. Is that not correct?
Yes, LAFCO placed the initial tax on the ballot in 2016. That did not pass. So IVCSD's Board of Directors placed a separate tax measure called the Increased Isla Vista Infrastructure Funding Plan, which was Measure R, and that was approved at an 8% rate in June 2018.
Thank you. So the only way it can be changed at this point is by initiative unless you wanted to reduce it. Is that correct?
We believe that we can go back to the voters for a higher tax rate beyond 8% at this point because the Assembly Bill 3 contemplated only the initial utility user tax, not future ones.
That would be fun.
Chair Stark?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that one built-in factor in that user utility tax is the rate increases that the utilities provide you with a good annual increase. So
Yes.
it's a nice benefit.
It is. We haven't had to go back to the voters, and we've been comfortable within our current means.
Thank you. Watch out for initiatives.
Yeah.
I have one more question, I think, and that's who decides who puts up the art on the sidewalk?
It's that we do have an extensive public art policy and a process for individuals to apply to have a mural on their property in the public right-of-way. It goes through a process where our Public Works Director makes the initial review, I do a second review, and it finally goes to our board for approval to get public funding.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know. And last, am I correct that your coordination with the sheriff involves the Isla Vista Foot Patrol? Is that correct?
We're in close coordination with Ivy Foot Patrol, either through the Ivy Safe meetings or informal discussions throughout the months.
Thank you. I guess it's time for public comment. I would recognize Supervisor Capps. As a matter of courtesy, I'd invite her to go first if she likes. Guess it's worth pointing out that after the last redistricting, Isla Vista is now in the second supervisorial district. Super Caps is its Supervisor Caps.
Thank you, Chair Stark and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of this item, on behalf of the partnership with the Isla Vista Community Service District. Many of you have very deep ties to Isla Vista, so and some of this will be quite known to you, so I apologize about that, but I do want to speak to some of the basics. And, you know, I'm happy to talk about the fundamentals of the role and the authorization of Community Service District, and to review it myself, the necessities of public peace, health, safety, and welfare. And I'm just going to be speaking about one piece, which is safety. And that's my number one goal, representing Isla Vista. It's safety of those young people, mostly young people. We do have some long-term residents, of course. They serve a very valuable role. I want to acknowledge their concerns. I want to acknowledge how much my office relies on them to help us come up with ideas and creative solutions all the time. So I acknowledge their concerns. But on the public safety, one thing in specifics, I have 3 points. The Isla Vista Community Service District for a long time, since its inception, has been educating and advocating and making real progress on cliff safety. And this festival, this spring festival, in my mind, is a key factor to making progress on cliff safety. And to just go through some fundamentals. Chief Hartwig, our retired fire chief, told me once when I asked him, what keeps you up at night? Because that's a question I like to ask our officials. Without pausing, he said, a mass casualty event in Isla Vista on one of those balconies. And so when you have Deltopia, which doubles the number of people on those balconies, which could be 500 people on one of those rickety balconies over a bluff where there's a 50-foot drop, it could be a mass casualty event. So this festival, which the Board of Supervisors just unanimously approved, is a good faith effort to move this festival blocks away. We're trying, they're trying in partnership. It's that simple. Is it going to work right off the bat? Probably not, but it's a good faith effort. And so when Mr. Aboud says that this is all about public safety, I wholeheartedly agree. That's what this is about. And again, they serve a role in partnership, but it really does augment the county, and I see that as part of their charter as well. It's not overlapping. It's really an augmented role, and I just want to acknowledge their boots on the ground role. So thanks for having me speak. I want to hear the rest of the comments, and I've learned a lot today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments?
Yes. I'd like to invite Julia Barbosa up to speak.
Julia Barbosa.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the Commission and the staff for adding this item to the agenda at the request of the public.
Could you speak a little closer into the microphone?
Sorry.
Great.
First, I would like to thank the Commission and the staff for adding this item to the agenda at the request of the public. I will start by saying that the IVCSD's graffiti abatement program has made a noticeably positive difference in Isla Vista. Jenna Norton has been proactively and swiftly making sure graffiti is cleaned up from public and private properties. I commend her efforts. My biggest concerns are IVCSD's unnecessarily duplicated services, their violations of stated powers, and their finances as a result of these expenditures. First, I'm a little confused about the numbers provided here regarding the Compost Collective. Currently, right now on their website, the budgets linked list the Compost Collective at $156,000 for this year, and the 2 previous years at $244,000, which would amount to over $600,000 for just the 3 years of the composting program that is duplicating Marburg's composting services they are mandated to perform. As for the alternative Deltopia Spring Festival, I don't believe that the CSD can host or fund this event without violating its granted powers. LAFCO allows the CSD to operate cultural facilities, which they do with the community center. Taking over the downtown area with a music festival seems like a far-fetched extrapolation of these powers, and this would be the job of IVRPD. And the CSD is also expressly prohibited from overstepping the jurisdiction of the Recreation and Parks District. I'm sure that the Special District of Beaumont, which is mentioned in the presentation, is probably empowered to throw entertainment events to begin with. Throwing a spring music festival is not a safety measure. It's an attempt to appease a segment of the student population who feel entitled to what they perceive as a cultural legacy. The CSD board has previously expressed during public meeting the desire to do a recurring concert series in addition to their spring festival, even after being reminded at the time by a former director who used to be a part of this commission that IVRPG already does this, its concert series in the park, and that it's not the CSD's job to duplicate or substitute their efforts. If the CSD's primary concern is safety, why has it never, in all of these years, contracted additional year-round services from Isla Vista Foot Patrol, despite the fact that Isla Vista is sometimes down to a single deputy on duty due to lack of resources? IVCSD recently acquired a loan of $300,000 from the county to launch a parking enforcement program, which is one of its core obligations. It is also projecting a budget deficit for future years. 3 years of composting alone would have funded the entire launch of the parking enforcement program. No special district that is in debt should be throwing a music festival that would drain another $140,000 to $170,000 from its budget. I ask you today to please keep the CSD from misusing public funds based on loose interpretations of the powers that were granted to them at the time of their formation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
Yes, we also have an Anne Renaud who would like to speak on this item.
Hi, my name is Anne Renaud. I've been a longtime resident of Isla Vista since 1978. I'm a homeowner and also a person who provides a property owner on a duplex that provides housing for students. And I have to say that I saw, significant progress with Deltopia. It's an unsanctioned event, and that, they're taking over and actually enforcing rules and regulations as far as noise was a very positive move this year. And now I'm viewing something as a non-sanctioned event being transformed into a spring festival, and I wonder about the appropriateness of that being advertised and drawing the same cadre of outsiders into Isla Vista during that particular weekend. And I'm listening to what's being said, but I'm not hearing any details about the event. And I haven't gotten any awareness either as a homeowner or a property owner about it. And as an aside, which I don't know if it's appropriate or not, I've heard that there's a lighting program for residents, and I've also heard that there's a tree program for residents, which I'm really glad to hear about, but I've never been informed about directly. So I urge the board to please, take a look at whether or not we want to advertise an event during that weekend for an influx again of outsiders, which have caused significant problems in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
We also have a Sarah Erickson on Zoom that would like to speak.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Sarah. I'm an affordable housing developer in my day job. I was raised in Ivy since 1986, still living here at my dad's house to help him as he ages. I pay rent to my dad. I'm still a renter. I've been a renter my whole life, and I'm active in the local tenants union. I'm active with other families and adults and students here in Ivy who want to get a peaceful night's sleep to be productive the next day, which is a weekly battle that impacts our quality of life that CSD hasn't addressed. More important than the college spring break party, we care about our day-to-day quality of life. Having an alternative Deltopia party is not going to stop the Del Playa and Sabado Tarde partiers. The average age of the partiers that show up to the Deltopia event is under 21 years old, and so they're not going to be able to party at this this Soultopia event. And I'm afraid this mixed messaging with the marketing, especially because it appears that the CSD is collaborating with some social media party promoters. Sounds of Ivy and Ivy Moves are kind of some of the biggest ones. And these are notoriously organizing illegal events and parties on a weekly basis. They're connecting houses to musicians and DJs, and every week there's like essentially, our residential area is our public nightlife. There are public clubs, public venues where the amplified sounds are just out of control. It's not like it used to be back in the day where you'd have to walk down Del Playa and go hear a band playing. The technology with the sound systems, the amplified sounds are just so loud. I walked to the Bluffs on Friday and Saturday night at like 11 p.m., a late night walk. And I could hear at Coal Oil Point at Sands, the booming of IV, like, and I love music and I went to raves and I love punk music. You just hear the screaming punk music and you hear the bass, fireworks went off, and like this is a weekly thing that's happening. And there's no other community anywhere adjacent to a UC or a college that will allow this to happen in a residential area. And somehow it's just been like normalized. And I think the CSD and their limited like 15 years they've been here, but like their perception of Ivy culture is embracing this band culture and they're not doing anything to stop it. They're collaborating with the very people that are organizing these illegal events that are happening every weekend. And I think that they're exasperating kind of one of the things called out in the report is the unhealthy balance between the college students and non-college students. And these students are transient, they leave. And it's also another thing called out in the report is the irresponsible party culture that has been present for over 45 years. They've studied the idea of cityhood. I mean, Jonathan, that's like not going to happen. Like we don't have the infrastructure to do that. It feels like the CSD is controlled by students, caters to students. The majority of their budget, I question their budget. Like, I don't even know, like, is this the final one that is in the presentation? Because on the website, there's something different. And I don't think there's transparency. And the majority of their budget is spent on salaries. It's super fat salaries. Like, what are all these staff doing? You saw a lot of programs that were offered that sounded nice, but like to the person who just spoke before me, Anne, like who's getting these lighting? Who's getting the trees? Like where's the outcome reporting? I have significant concerns about how the budget is being managed, and I think there's a lack of oversight and accountability. And I don't think this presentation is proof of any kind of outcomes that are actually happening. It's a lot of politicking. We have career politicians here, some former students who started this district was not passed. A lot of people didn't come out to vote. So we're stuck with this. And I think the CSD creates this pipeline to the Associated Student Government Body that empowers and emboldens students to think that because they're the majority of IV, that they get to control the politics and the narrative here. And I think not just the homeowners, but there's a ton of families and a lot of students who want to have a peaceful night. And I don't think the CSD is representing them. The CSD is responding to the Associated Student Government Body and those hundreds of people that came out. And who are the people that came out to save Deltopia? The ones who want to party. The ones who don't want to party are busy doing other things. Anyway, yeah, maybe I'm at time, but
Yeah, we're tolerant here, but we do have a 3-minute time limit.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have so much more to say. It was hard for me.
No apologies necessary. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Do we have any other public comment?
I do believe a Peter Office on Zoom might want to speak on this item.
My name is Peter Neuschel. I'm a 40-year resident, taxpayer, and property manager in Isla Vista. The IVCSD is not empowered to provide recreation in Isla Vista. We already pay for another special district in this tiny little area, the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District, to do this. Their upcoming $140,000 Soultopia, where our taxes pay for free food and entertainment for a projected 9,000 people, is taking place in parks managed by IVRPD, where they already conduct festivals. They are the festival district. We are paying twice for the same service. This district cannot stay in its lane. IVCSD spends $150,000 a year to supposedly compost trash. The reality is they're paying multiple salaried employees. Mr. Aboud's earlier characterization of this boondoggle is a lie. Composting is performed by Marburg under Senate Bill 1383. Our Park District composts, again, duplication of services. IVCSD has a defined power, address parking in Isla Vista. This year, they borrowed $300,000 from the county for a parking enforcement program. Nothing happened. There is zero parking enforcement, and now they are spending $140,000 of the borrowed money on a party. The $60,000 income from, quote, parking tickets in their budget is a lie. They're not issuing any parking tickets. I'm asking LAFCO to follow your mandate. By the way, there are plenty of LAFCOs in California, and this is not novel stuff, to prevent duplication of services and end IVCSD's infringement on IVRPD's powers. LAFCOs were formed in 1963 for this exact reason, to prevent duplication of services. Lastly, for those LAFCO members who approved the party permit, you will be singing a different tune if this year's Deltopia goes south, as it has increasingly for the past 4 years. Thank you.
Yes. First, I would observe first simply that the county approved the permit, did they not? It's not LAFCO is not a permit granting agency. I guess I'd ask the district if you want to respond briefly to the comments the last two speakers made, just to tie it up.
I can make a couple comments, thank you. One is on the composting budget. So we did recently approve a budget adjustment, very recently, and it does defund the compost program down to $37,000 a year, diverts those funds towards the parking program. So I hope the commenters can find joy in that. I can also say that our festival, again, by working with the groups who usually throw events in the residential areas, we're moving their activities to the commercial area where under county code, that is where it's supposed to take place. So we're actually helping by removing bad actors from the residential neighborhoods and moving them into the sanctioned area of the commercial zone. I will also note that a couple years ago, our board endorsed a ordinance change to the social host ordinance, working with Commander Tesla to restrict large parties to 200 people. It used to be 500. And to make some rules for these neighborhood band shows. There's a limit, there's the First Amendment, so that needs to be respected as well. But we did endorse a successful change in county code to restrict the large, out-of-control band shows that were taking place in Isla Vista and the paid parties. So we've been very attentive to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude public comment? I would ask our council to two more public comments. Let's do the public comment.
Yes. So first written in is from Christopher Byrne, stating, "Dear Commissioners, since its inception, the Isla Vista Community Service District has been an agency in search of a mission. Other than providing lucrative, it cut off here, IVCSD has not been able to identify and sustain an activity that justifies its existence. Please do not extend this cynical, self-serving, cut off on the words again, to enforce the clearly stated limits on the scope of permissible activities within its jurisdiction. Respectfully submitted, Christopher Byrne, 39-year-old Isla Vista resident." We also have one other written in saying, "Dear Commissioners, I'm an Isla Vista resident currently paying increased taxes for the services of the IVCSD. Thank you for this meeting and for your objective and unbiased analysis of whether or not the services being provided by the CSD conform to the powers they have already been invested with. Over the years of CSD operation, I have appreciated much of their work. I feel their motivation is genuinely rooted in the betterment of Isla Vista. I also feel that the CSD has gotten creative with their interpretation of some powers, especially regarding safety. I appreciate your careful assessment of this in the March meeting. $300,000+ of taxpayer money, hard-earned, will be used for the Spring Festival. If repeated annually for 5 years, this will be nearly $1 million in taxpayer money spent on festivals. While fewer people on DP is beneficial, I believe a case can be made that the use of taxpayer funds for a festival stretches the definition of providing safety measures for our community. I'd be very interested to hear your deliberations on this. Thank you, Janet Stitch.
Thank you. Does that conclude public comment?
Yes, that concludes public comment on this item.
Mr. Boot has his hand up, but time is short. Life is long.
I'll just be very brief on the funding sources for the festival. It's $140,000 out of our budget, $140,000 out of the Associated Students government budget, and it is also supposed to be economic development for our businesses who rely on busy days like Deltopia, which we're ending Deltopia and moving to Spring Festival, but rely on busy days like that to be able to get into the black. So it is economic development too. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just let you clarify a couple things and we can move it on. As I said before, I believe it's correct that the second round of municipal services reviews are commenced or commencing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it starts with the public safety, the agencies that provide public safety services of one form or another. So would I be correct in assuming that in the course of that particular service reviews, you will engage in communications with the district as to the services that they provide under the rubric of public safety, and in due course make whatever recommendations to the commission you would be inclined to make? And that's the appropriate, I think, the appropriate venue for having this discussion about the scope of the services with respect to that particular area of service. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. So we don't need to take any action today, if I'm correct, other than to receive and file the report. I'd like to ask the council, do we need a motion to receive and file the report?
Yeah.
Many microphones are on. There's too many green lights at once. It happens in Isla Vista all the time. I'll start with Commissioner Geyer.
Well, again, I want to thank the district for coming and giving this presentation. And I think what's really jumped out off the page for me is, my dealing mainly with special districts has always been a single-use service district. And I can really see through this how having multiple services gives you multiple headaches. And I would strongly suggest, I think your PowerPoint was very good, and I know that you have a really good website. Maybe post that on your website so that people can look at it, hopefully gain a better understanding of each particular service that you provide, and if they have a question, talk to you about it. But again, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Stark. Just a couple thoughts here was that, again, getting back to my initial questions on, local area formation versus enforcement. I appreciate the presentation, but I also don't want to have our special districts having to come to the podium and having to defend their expenditures to us. I think that's going to, I know that, there's some questions here about that, and this has kind of gone down another route for people that are frustrated with Isla Vista. I don't think we're the venue. I think that's an election. I think elections have consequences, and you elect people to represent you. It's a representative democracy, and I don't think this body is that right body. So that's just where I come down on it. I know that some of you guys think that, that you want to read it very strictly on what their, powers are, but I really think that typically courts broadly interpret powers of municipalities. And so I think that they're still within their frame of entitlement on their powers. And if you want to curb those, you do that through an election by electing different board members who might have a similar thought than you do on those issues. And so I think there's that. On my other hat as a county supervisor, I want to say thank you to the IVCSD for the work here, because I know what you guys are trying to do and what we're trying to solve. And I think as an overall representative of the county and taxpayers, right now we're spending a significant amount of money on Isla Vista on law enforcement, on overtime, on these different parties there. And I think you guys are doing a lot of things to potentially curb that for the general taxpayers of the county. And so I want to say thank you, that I do appreciate that, and that I hope that you guys are successful with what you're trying to do here, because, what happens in Isla Vista, it's either going to be controlled or it's going to be chaos. And I think you guys are trying to do some measured control. I don't always agree with it all, as I've told you guys, but at least, I think you should have the autonomy to try to figure it out. And so go with God.
Thank you. Commissioner Kiriakou.
Thank you. When I cautioned us in December about how we handle this item, what happened today is exactly what I was worried would happen. Isla Vista Community Services District was basically subjected to a political attack with LAFCO as the forum, and I think that's a real shame. If there were a situation where the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District was saying, hey, Community Services District, stay out of our lane, we should be the ones doing this festival. We were planning on doing a festival like this. Why are you usurping what we do? This would be a different conversation. But the voice I don't hear in any of this discussion is the IVRPD. I've heard the Board of Supervisors weigh in. They approved a permit. The CSD is a representative body. They voted to do this. This is not our lane. We should stay in our lane. And I just really regret that our forum, we've just spent an hour, more than an hour, being the venue for a political attack against an entity that is duly elected and has their own process. As Commissioner Nelson said, there's a solution to this problem. If you think this is a problem, it's the next election and the election after that. But LAFCO should not be the state-initiated body to hear these kinds of attacks. I can appreciate that there are residents that are unhappy with how things are being done. They would want things to be done a different way. You have a vehicle, you have an avenue. I suggest you avail yourselves of that vehicle and that avenue. But we shouldn't have had this conversation, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Guyer.
Yeah, I have one follow-up thing. I think in a follow-up to what you've just said is your event or festival is going to be in AO Park, right? And I assume that you got a permit from Ivy Rec and Parks to have your event.
Yes, we've been working closely with them. They vote on our rental of the park next Wednesday. Yeah, thank you.
That would seem to be the next venue, the next vehicle, the next avenue for them to try to stop this. But
Okay, is there anyone up north that cares to weigh in on this? Can any?
No comment.
No comment. Refreshing. So I'll reiterate to council, do we need a motion, or does anyone care to make a motion? I don't think we need one. I think we can receive and file the report
I'll move
as
that
we wish, and I think our EO has ample direction as to how to proceed in the due course of the municipal service reviews. Is that correct? Well, thank you all for coming. I looked at this as an informational site, not a forum for an attack. Probably unfortunate it turned out the way it did, but that's democracy. So, while we still have one. Thank you. Don't forget to vote. I always think on people. Would you call the next item, Madam Clerk?
The next item is business item number 2, which is to receive, sorry, one moment here.
We're going to take the AI one next.
Yes, it is to receive and file a presentation regarding the use of AI-generated municipal service reviews and staff reports from the paperwork company.
Thank you. I'm going to leave my chair, be replaced by a robot.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give a brief introduction for this. The commission had requested a presentation regarding the use of AI technology. And so we have invited Mr. David Key from the Paperworks Company to give a presentation to the commission on this matter. And I'll introduce David Key, please.
Mr. Keach, you may proceed.
Thank you. And just as an aside, before I go into it, I'm a curious person. That was fascinating. I really enjoyed it. I know that's available to me as a resident of Marin, but
Glad we could help.
yeah, I should participate a little bit more. So let's see, I've got my clicker here. So thank you very much for the introduction. My name is David Key. I'm the founder and CEO of the Paperwork Company. Our mission is to reduce the amount of paperwork that organizations have to do through the use of automation and AI tools. And this is a abridged deck from the one that I submitted to the record, just so I can get through it very quickly and hopefully save some time for question and answer. So a few things I'm going to cover. I just want to talk about the project that we did with Napa LAFCO, where we did their county-wide fire and emergency medical service municipal service review. So just talk a little bit about what they asked us for, how that went. I know this commission, as well as numerous other executives that I've spoken to, have some concerns about the technology. I've heard them a lot. Maybe there will be some new ones, but I put some of the most common ones in the deck to just address them head on. And then I know you were also interested in some potentially additional applications of this technology to county government. So I'll end with a few touching on that. All right. So when we were first approached by Napa LAFCO, and in dozens of conversations with other executive officers since then, the challenge is the same. You have this enormous avalanche of paperwork that has to go into these municipal service reviews, and it can be thousands of pages of unstructured documentation, CSV files, hundreds of thousands of rows of CAD data, GIS map files, scribbles on a piece of paper often, audits, master plans, and you have these incredibly talented LAFCO analysts that are looking at it, and you have these very experienced consulting firms, but they're spending a majority of their time combing through all of this unstructured documentation, and really to make sure everything's covered, nothing's missed, and to pull out the facts. And it's a huge investment of resources, both in time and capital. And so when we were speaking to Napa, they said, this is forming a bottleneck where we are not able to do our entire catalog of reports. We're only able to get to so many of them, and so we are looking for a way that we can do all of our reports, do them faster, do them to a greater level of detail, and within our current budget. And there's this bottleneck that we're spending most of our resources on this, so it's very limited. So they asked us if we could help with this. They also wanted to de-risk. They're concerned about getting sued. They don't want civil grand juries. They were also concerned about state-mandated compliance audits. And so this was just a way to get rid of that liability. So our solution can help with this, and it did. And what it is it is a AI that has been programmed with the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act and all of the surrounding documentation. So it understands what MSRs are, it's read the policy white papers, it knows what an SOI is. And what it does is it reads all of the documentation, it compares that to the law and the guidance, and it then extracts those facts. Those facts are then mapped onto an MSR template that we worked with Napa LAFCO to develop, which was basically, what are the entities that you want to review? What are the different lenses that you want to review them from? And so using this, we were able to put out the MSR draft that I'm sure you've all seen. It's incredibly detailed. And we were able to do this very quickly for a fraction of the cost. And just to put this in perspective for you, this report was farmed out to a traditional consulting agency with a budget of $140,000 over a span of 6 to 12 months. We did this report in less than 5 weeks for $5,000. And by all accounts, the level of detail is very, very high. They're very pleased with it. So this would allow LAFCO to fulfill their entire amount of MSRs, add reports, add reviews, staff reviews, whatever you want to do, there's no longer this bottleneck of resources around time and money with it. You can do whatever you want. So that's what we did. Oh, I should say something too about the citations as well. So you'll notice, and apologies, we used inline citations in the report. It makes it a little bit obnoxious to read, but I wanted to make it very clear that every single thing that was said in chapters 2 through 7, where it's laying out the level of analysis, was directly tied to source documentation that was provided by the audited agencies. And not just the documents, but the exact line or paragraph in it. So from an audit perspective, it's very defensible to point to where the information's coming from. Okay. All right, so I want to move into some of the most common concerns that commissioners and executives have had about this technology. And the first is hallucinations. And I should have done this earlier, but just to get a general sense, has everybody tried ChatGPT or asked a question, maybe read some papers about it, maybe some power users, they use it for everything now? Okay.
I know enough to be horrified.
Enough to be, I know. So, okay. So just to, what hallucinations are is when you ask it a question or you ask it to do something for you and it gives you the wrong answer. Actually, it's more pernicious than that. It gives you an answer which has all the appearances of being very correct. It's a very competent looking answer. It may even have citations or things that it's saying it's pulling it from, and it's just complete nonsense. It's totally made up. So this can happen with the public models. And what is happening underneath the hood, what these things are, is basically the world's best autocomplete. So they've read all the text in the history of humankind that's ever been written anywhere. And so since our language is so patterned, when they see the input, they actually match it based on what they've read, and they put an answer out which is probabilistically likely to be the answer to that question. Now, it seems like magic, and they're very good at it, which is why they seem human. So a hallucination is a context failure because words and phrases have different meanings in different contexts. So let me use an example you'll all be familiar with. Cortese knocks Hertzberg. If I say that in this room, we all know what I'm talking about. It refers to state legislators in California. There are broad powers and mandates that are associated with it. And then there's this web of concepts and policy papers and documentation that are all associated with that. But Cortese is also a grape that they grow in Piedmont, Italy. And there's a whole nother set of legislation, about DOC classification, agricultural law that has to do with that. Knox, there's Fort Knox. There's actually a LAFCO executive, Blair Knox, from Kern County, and he spells his last name. So he's doubly dangerous in that he's in this context web, and he has his name associated to LAFCO already, but it's a different Knox than associated with the mandate. So when these context errors come up, they can generate these hallucinations. And so you can't use the public models. So we don't use them. We do something different. It's called an RAG system, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is what's used in enterprise corporations. They're all switching to this. And what it does is it does a few things. So the first is that it is a sovereign data environment. It is its own sandbox. It does not go out to the internet to ask questions and pull stuff in. It is completely segregated from the internet and any other database. The AI in it is only trained on the Cortese Knox-Hertzberg Act and LAFCO documentation. It doesn't know about World War II. It can't even answer questions about the county instance that it's for that don't have to do with the mandates of LAFCO. So in many respects, it's dumber than the public models. Its breadth of knowledge is not as much. It's very deep, though, on this one thing. And then the last and the most important as to why there are no hallucinations with this system is that a retrieval augmented generation system does not rely on the pattern matching ability of the AI to write its answers. it uses it to understand language, and from that language, it searches the documentation that is in the system. So when we ask it a question, how did St. Helena Fire Department do on their NFPA 1710, standards of cover? How are their deployment times? Did they do it? It goes, it looks for that answer in the documentation, and it returns the data from it. And if it doesn't find it, then it has a data gap. And you'll have seen in the report, there's many data gaps. There's over 800 actually. So these are places where along the lines of inquiry that Napa LAFCO asked us to take, it looked in the documentation, and that information was not there, or if it was deficient in some way, and then it said it. So it does understand language, but it's not using it to really write anything. It uses it to search the documentation that's there. All right. So far, so good? Okay. Next concern people have. Does this thing make mistakes? So we know it's not hallucinating stuff, but is it going to make errors? The answer is yes, it can, but they are the type of error that I would classify as garbage in, garbage out. And I'll give you a specific example from this report that came up. So the city of Calistoga has a full-time professional fire department. And in their documentation, they said, we are under 1710 of the NFPA guidance on that. So those standards are for urban departments. Well, you probably already all know this, but those are for urban departments, and it has to do with equipment and personnel and the times and how fast they get there and so forth and so on. So it looked at that, it looked at how they did from their CAD file, and then it reported the gap. Now, as it turns out, they may be classified as a rural department, which would be under 1720. And that has a little bit of a more lenient set of standards to it. So if that ends up being the case, then we will have to redo the analysis on it. Now, what I would point out, though, about this situation is this is the exact same mistake that a human would make as well. So if it had been a human consultant, it would have happened as well. It was in the documentation. And we only took a little less than 5 weeks to find it out, as opposed to, they give us all this documentation, and then in a year, in a public comment viewing, we find out about it, and it's harder to take care of at that point. So it makes it very easy to catch errors and do them and take care of them very quickly. All right, I know this commission had particular concerns about AI bias. So I'd love to dig into that a little bit by what you mean, but what I would classify as AI bias, just really quick so we're on the same page, is, as I said, these are probability machines. So they look at the input and then they try to match the output based on a probability of everything they've read it being the right answer. So what AI bias is when the developers come in and put their finger on the scale and they make it say something else. So the most common area you will see this type of bias is if you ask ChatGPT, how do I make a bomb? Something illegal, how do I make a bomb out of household materials? And it'll give you an answer that says, that's illegal, I'm not gonna help you do it, and maybe you should go get help or something like that. I guarantee you that ChatGPT has been trained on the answer. It is read documentation, and it could tell you how to do that, but you can't have it for safety reasons. So OpenAI and Google has inserted themselves and done that. They can also modify the output, and you'll see that a lot if you ask a legal question, a finance question, or a medical question. They used to not tell you anything, but now they'll say, listen, this sounds like a medical question. We're not a doctor. You should go seek a licensed professional to answer your question. However, here's a little bit of information about what you asked. So it's modifying that. Okay. So does our system have bias? No. Why not? Well, actually, there's a better slide for this. There's nowhere that we would weigh in what we're doing. All we're doing is a gap analysis. And this is why government is perfect for this technology. It is rich in standards, codes, precedents, documentation. We're just doing a gap analysis. Like the NFPA 1710, they say, what do we want to look at? Fire department, okay, what are their standards? What does the law say? What does the guidance say? Okay, they have, this is the guidance. Okay, how did they do against that? All right, we measure the difference. Okay, what's historically been done in the case that, they exceeded or there's a gap or whatever it is? What is the range of options that we have? And so, we take this and we just tell you what's in the big pile of documents according to the data-rich environment of predefined processes, templates, and laws, and we then hand that to Executive Officer Prater, who talks to the commission about it, and you make decisions based on that, based on commission priorities and regional priorities. So I was trying to think of a way this could come in. But the only one I could think of is, let me use Napa as an example. I grew up in Napa, and Napa is very conservative when it comes to annexing, and they're very conservative when it comes to water rights. And for obvious reasons, they don't want people building stuff in the vineyards. It's also an agricultural town as well as a town that's dedicated to tourism. And so if you were to look at their records of how the commission has reacted to certain situations over the past, and you asked it a question like, what should we do given this set of circumstances, what has been done before, that would probably add weight to it. It would pick it up, but again, it would give you a range of options. And, and some might call that customization in that it is recognizing the history of what the commission has done. So, but that's really the only one. Again, we're just doing a technical baseline, and then we hand it to you to bring in discretion and judgment to that. We don't need to go over this, but if you were still not convinced, these are all areas that in your public and professional life that use the exact same technology that we're doing. They use machine reading to just look at a bunch of data, put it into a nice, concise document, and then humans make decisions based on it.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. You may not know it because of my happy disposition, but I'm a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is, and we have a really good counsel, really understands AI.
Yeah.
And we did a program, and what the state bar did is they have a requirement that if you're going to rely on AI, you got to guarantee that a human being checks the entire thing and vouches for it before you can ask a court or an agency to rely on it. There's a safeguard that's like built into the process. Does your program play into that?
1,000%, yes. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the process is you farm this out, you're going to do the study, you then take it, okay, it goes up for public comment. That has to be up for I think maybe 30 days, something like that. It goes through the process, it goes through the commission, it works with the stakeholders, and then it is passed, it becomes a statutory document, at which point SOI determinations must flow down from it. Is that more or less correct? Sounds about right. Okay, yeah. So, we have nothing. All we did is take the big pile of documents that the audited agencies submitted and just looked at them very quickly using machine reading and put them in a format that Napa LAFCO asked. Then they take it and there's ultimate editorial control over it. Yeah, so, I mean, whatever determinations they make, they can add to that or anything like that. So we're almost like a calculator. They tell us here, these are the numbers we're inputting. All right, we do the calculation and then we give you the sum total. We're making the sausage, we're not cooking it. Yeah, the computer doesn't make any of the decisions. You and Executive Officer Prater do. Yeah, totally.
Go on.
Oh, okay. Good, good. So let's see. Yeah, the last part is just additional applications of this technology. I just threw a few of them in there, but I'm sure by this point, anytime there's just a big pile of documentation, structured, unstructured, whatever, that needs to be combed through and put into a more concise report that you can make decisions based on, this technology can be applicable to that. So CEQA is one of them. It can do response to comments. I spoke to one executive, there's like 200 comments on something, and it's just sitting over in a pile. They don't even want to look at it. It can also read the 5,000-page impact reports and analyze whether or not they line up with what the realities are that LAFCO of that particular area is reflecting. Public Records Act sorting, they can do redaction. They can do it very quickly. Any sort of grant compliance, audit consolidations, again, they can look through all of this very quickly. This is from my sister, who's a social worker in Napa, and she says there's just this overwhelming mess of text, documentation, intake forms, email, scribbles on piece of paper, and it's all very important. It helps them make responsible decisions, so it can even do stuff like that. And this last one is a little bit different. This is just something that will incidentally happen over time. So this report, when it is entered into the record, will go into our vector database. And what that is it allows you to look up and ask questions about what has been entered into the system. And so it's a way of capturing institutional memory. So maybe you have someone that works for 20, 30 years, they retire, and you lose all that institutional knowledge that they had, or you're searching through file cabinets or one of the legacy information store data management systems, and you kind of have to know what you're looking for to find it. And so what this does is, if you have a new person or there's some question about what did we do in the past, it's very easy to just semantically look up and it will pull up everything in the database. And this is something that in the private sector they've been using. I have one funny story about this and then I'll end. I consulted in food consumer packaged good manufacturing for years. And we were asked by Procter & Gamble to help them with this protein synthesis problem. And it was something with extrusion. My firm was very good at this. And my colleague, who had actually worked at Procter & Gamble back in the 80s, said, "Oh God, I already did this research for them back there." And so he said, "Hey, we'd love your money, but we already did. I did this when I worked for you, and this is kind of what it's called, and here's probably where you'll find it." So they didn't even know what they had, and it's because no one still was there who remembered. So this is the 80s. They've since moved on. They definitely use a system like this, but it is something that I think is very powerful and just something interesting for the commission to consider as well. And that is everything I have to say about it. Thank you. Thank you very much for this privilege.
Thank you. Are there any commissioners that have questions on this? I'd like to ask Mr. Prater, where do we go from here with respect to this?
Well, I think it's something that you wanted to hear about, and each commissioner can decide whether or not you want to place a future agenda item on use of AI technology and when it might be applicable for us in our work scope when we're moving forward. You authorized our police, fire, EMS, municipal service review. If you wanted to reconsider that and use some sort of technology to synthesize that data, we can always bring that item back for discussion for the commission.
What is your time frame for this?
Is that a question for me?
Well, I was actually for Mr. Prater.
Okay.
If we were going to bring back, right? I mean, it's a very interesting presentation, fascinating presentation. And the question is, as a practical matter, what's it going to mean for us? What does it do for us? How much does it cost? Does it displace any staff? Are there things you could be doing better? You know, practical nuts and bolts conversation, you know, questions that we'd have. And my question to you is, what do you recommend, and what's your time frame for coming back so we could have a practical discussion on it?
Well, those are questions I think that you have the co-founder of Paperworks Company here to answer, and he can probably give you a sense of what the costs are associated with a similar review that they conducted for Napa, or whether or not Santa Barbara would be something that could be contemplated as an additional pilot program in this southern part of the state that they'd be interested in. I can't answer that. I can tell you that we're moving forward on our service review. We typically have slated our admin draft for summer months. So anytime before summer, we'd need to bring an item back if we wanted to modify the path. We write all of our service reviews in-house and follow a format and function that tears off of our last cycle. So that's the direction that we're heading in. I can certainly work with Mr. Key outside of this and fine-tune some analysis for you. And if it seems highly plausible, then we can bring an item back before summer.
Yeah, I'd sort of like, and it seems to me the best use of our time is to have you contact Mr. Key and whittle this down in practical terms so we could get some idea about whether this is a feasible concept or not, rather than trying to do it on the fly. I'd ask fellow commissioners what they have to say about it. Got your light on, Mr. Geyer.
Does this require, like, putting in your most recent MSRs so that when you introduce your new set, you have something to compare it to?
So it depends on what the commission and Executive Officer Prater want for the reports. Again, we're in the middle where with Napa we decided, what do you want your end product MSR to look like? Let's lay out a template of all the entities you want to look at and the lines of analysis you want. Okay, then we work backwards from there. What is the documentation that we would need to get from the entities? We pull that, do the calculations, then we hand it back to move into the public process of deliberation. So what we have talked to some other executives about, and again, however you want to structure this, but this is not my suggestion, it came up and it's resonated with other executives, was a 2-year plan in which the entire catalog of MSRs is updated. And we would charge a flat fee of $175,000 each year for that over 2 years, and you get the entire catalog updated. And if you want to add reports or you want us to do staff reports or any of the CEQA stuff, we can talk about what's included in there, but it would be all of them, and it would be to the level that you saw in the pilot. And it would also, I think the fact that you can do this very quickly and for inexpensively opens up all kinds of interesting options where if you want to run these every quarter, you could. You don't have to wait 5 years. Doesn't really matter. We'll run them as many times as you want. And you can do them all at speed. And then so once they're done, they would then become part of the Santa Barbara instance. So it would be part of the database. And when the next one was done, it would compare it to when the previous one was done. So yeah, we talked to Brendan Freeman, the executive officer of Napa, and his staff about how to do the LAFCO one, and we looked at the last time they did the fire and EMS one, and it was back in 2006. And he said, let's not do that one. We were still figuring out what we wanted to do back then. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act was still relatively new. And so, they put together something that worked for them and that was inspired by Santa Cruz, which had just recently done one as well. So it'll be a collaborative process, but the thing that just won't take any time is sorting through the documentation. But you can do anything you want to imagine.
So I think an answer to your question would be for the executive officer to actually come up with a plan. Do you want all of the previous, which we've just finished, MSRs cataloged in so that when you start your new ones, it has a base to compare to? What is it you would recommend?
Yeah, I think we had produced most recent MSRs within the last 5 years, so they're fairly relevant to this conversation. So I think we would want to use those. My review of the Napa pilot MSR was, I think we would like to see a different format. It was less storytelling that from a byproduct that we use in trying to explain the story. This was much more bullet pointed points of reference and pulling information directly out of the documents, which we do, but we like to weave it into much more of a storyline that explains these agencies and less about kind of the nuts and bolts of what the documents say. So I think we have a lot of formatting issues that we'd like to see differently to that extent, and I think we would want to include our recent studies that we have conducted so that we can build on that knowledge.
Did I answer your question? Somewhat. Commissioner Service.
I guess my first question is, how many LAFCOs are you currently serving? And secondly, instead of going to a 2-year commitment, is there any way of doing a pilot project to see how it works for us? I mean, those are my two questions.
Yeah, so this is brand new to us. There are about 6 counties that are very excited about this, who really want to get their catalog up to date. We haven't closed any yet. This is relatively new. Candidly, we've been working with East Bay fire departments. Like the technology that we do has been for firefighters where they wear a hat with AI vision, and it's also hearing what they say. And then when they go to do defensible space inspections, of which in Oakland and Berkeley, there's over 30,000 parcels they have to do every single year, plus their annuals, plus anybody that's building anything. So I happen to know Brendan Freeman because I grew up in Napa. I didn't know what a LAFCO was, but I said, oh, looks like it's government. Hey, how you doing? I reached out on LinkedIn. Maybe he could introduce me to the fire chief in Napa, see if there's anything there, because we were interested in doing it. And that was when he told me about this particular challenge. So that was back in December. So this is a relatively new, but this is actually a better application of our technology. What we're doing with the fire departments is not certain to be successful or not for a very long time. So to answer your question, our preference would be to not do a pilot project and to not do this using the old way of doing it, which is to put them out to bid. We would rather have a commitment, and the reason is that in order to set up an infrastructure for this in which everything can be considered holistically, and to give you an example why this would be important, in this report, Napa County recently did their water and wastewater municipal service review countywide in 2022. And in that report is a lot of information about water pressure and water rights, which are, again, a very hot topic in Napa County. And so that was very useful to the understanding of this report, which it also matters too for where firefighters are able to put water out. So we would prefer not to do that and to get into the bidding thing. We'd rather just have one flat fee. we're functioning as a consulting agency right now in that, we come up with a schedule and then we use our system to put these documents out in the traditional way that consultants would. However, we'd love it to become part of infrastructure. So the other thing that I would say about the 2-year commitment is this isn't a monthly installment, and if you don't like it at any time, you can just stop. This is a plan that was proposed to us by other LAFCO executives as a way to work, but we can just do it on a monthly installment. And the 2 years is, if the only thing that slows our system down is if we don't have the data. And so the 2 years is to be considerate, and I want to tie this into something that Mr. Prater said as well, in that there are certain districts which, let's say, would be challenged to pass the paperwork test because it was a one-size-fit-all, like, what could the city of San Francisco pass? And, you have the Angwin Volunteer Fire Department, and they're doing a fantastic job, but they're, I don't know this is true, I'm just making this up, but, they're keeping receipts in a shoebox and the volunteer, so there has to be some narrative, there has to be some work with what works, what doesn't, there has to be some consideration around it. But the 2 years is really to prioritize data-ready agencies up front while notifying other special districts, other entities that are going to be reviewed, hey, we would love to review you in 18 months. Here's the documentation. Let's work together over that period of time so that we can get this together so that when your time comes, we'll be able to put it right into motion. Does that make sense?
Let me follow up on that.
Sure.
You said that, a 2-year commitment, but then you said we can terminate at any time.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get back to my pilot question because, how would we analyze if it's working? What are the deliverables? What can we expect, say, in a month that we can make a decision that this is working or not working?
Well, the proof is in the quality of the report.
Deliverables, how soon would you get a report?
Well, once we work with the report, if we have the data and we have the format that works for Santa Barbara County for the particular report, we could have it within a week or two. I'd say this took us a little less than 5 weeks. The next time we do this one, it'll take a week to do if we have the data. So we could do it almost as an MOU for 2 years, and that we would like you to commit to our new system of doing it. However, this is so much better above and beyond. It's the iron triangle, fast, cheap, good, pick two. You're getting all three of these, and it's just such a giant leap past what anybody else is doing right now. We're very convinced you're going to be very pleased with the output. So, if you don't like it, yeah, we will stop anytime.
I got a couple of problems. We've got to move the agenda. We have fairly,
Certainly,
shockingly a lengthy agenda. Here's my first problem. $175,000, that's a lot of money to a LAFCO. And probably if you hit your robot thing and says, what is a financial condition in the county of Santa Barbara, you get something like a $26 million deficit, threatened layoffs, and I guess if you had the 9 cities or 8 cities in the county, you get the same kind of moaning and groaning and, oh, we got to put taxes on the thing. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think that in order for us to even to consider asking the entities to fund us, we need some kind of tangible calculation that we're either going to save staff, save money, or drastically increase the efficiency of our operation. And I'm not quite sure how you get there. I don't mind talking about this, but I'm skeptical about spending a whole lot of money at this point. I don't know, maybe our EO should weigh in on what you think would be a responsible course of action.
Chair, this came up when we presented starting our service review and whether or not we should leap into an AI approach or stay with the approach that we had been doing. And cost was certainly an issue associated with that. And as you know, we are trying to move forward to increase our staff by 1 FTE and to put $175,000 on top of that would significantly impact our budget. And I'm not sure the commission would want to see that budget presented in April, what that would look like. One of the things I will comment that I thought was excellent out of the Napa report was the gap analysis. I would encourage all of our member agencies, cities, and special districts to actually go through the exercise of figuring out where are the gaps that you have in your data. Because after we've done our first round of service reviews, hand reading all of those, we found a number of data gaps and had to navigate and ask many questions to get to a reasonable report that we could produce. And so I have a suspicion that the agencies that will fall under this service review under an AI model will yield a high volume of gaps in data. And so I'm not at this point sure that we could support the use of that technology to get a deliverable that is meaningful for us until those agencies can actually start hosting public data on their websites that can be consumed and run through the system. So those are my concerns with moving into this, let alone the cost associated with that. Because currently we produce all of those in-house, and large portion of our budget is salary and benefit funded, and we're spending our time to do these reports as a considerable chunk of our operations.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Guyer.
You know, I can see a great benefit in the long run with it because you have continuity. If we lose the EO, we start a whole educational process all over again. And in the time since Mike's been here, it's taken a long time to have a one-on-one relationship with every district and have an understanding of what's going on. A year or so from now, or a couple of years from now, he decides to move on to something else, we start that process all over again, and that's costly. So I think as far as a historical data, I think it's really good to have, but the personal one-on-one touch with different districts and understanding of what they do is invaluable to the EO. So I can see both sides of it.
Well, I entertain a motion from any commissioners.
I think we should just absorb all of this. Go back and be a sponge for a little while, listen to the other commissioners of what they felt with it, and
just as a note, if it's between not working with you and we do a pilot report, then okay, sure. But our preference would be to have counties that are willing to commit to it, to the whole process. So.
Yeah, my sense is that if I don't have any objection to plumbing technology, we're not going to make AI go away. You might as well learn how to use it at some point. But I don't know about jumping into a 2-year commitment with 6 figures, et cetera, et cetera. I'm willing to have our AO, our EO, take your pick, discuss some sort of pilot and bring it back to us, given what I think are the concerns. But I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of support for immediately jumping into a long-term commitment at this point.
Sure.
If that's enough guidance, Commissioner Johnson?
I agree. I think that there's some things that has to be carefully looked at. I think there's time. I think the 2 years, I agree that it could be a big commitment for our LAFCO at this time. I think in the near future, I mean, not the near future, but the future, I think we could look at that because I think be also more improvements what AI is going to be doing too. So, but I want to thank you for your presentation. So thank you very much for coming here. Of course. And then, does Santa Maria have anything to say?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
We have any comments from the Santa Maria commissioners?
No comment.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Do we have enough, Mr. Prater, do you have enough guidance? Thank you.
Chair Stark,
Yes.
I would like to request moving up item 6, which is the presentation from the update on housing and general plans, if I could, please.
That seems like a reasonable thing. Would you, Mr. Prater, the housing update is yours, I believe.
Thank you.
Would you read the title into the record, please?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, this information item is to receive a presentation report regarding countywide update on housing and general plans.
Thank you. Mr. Prater.
Hey, thank you, Chair and Commission. So staff has been putting together a number of informational items to keep the commission kind of up to date regarding a number of issues. This particular item is all evolving around the housing issues and the relationships towards meeting RHNA housing need numbers. That's the allocation that's been given in the 6th cycle for Santa Barbara County, and where the jurisdictions are with their journal plans. And so we wanted to keep the commission up to date as we begin to embark in April with our sphere of influence determinations for our 8 cities. We felt this was meaningful information that could provide context to the discussions that the cities are going to have with the commission related to where they would foresee their sphere boundaries drawn. As you know, the commission has requested that I reach out to those cities and ask them what their expectation or request would be. We're likely going to bring that back in April and start that conversation. And so before we got there, we wanted to make sure that the commission was aware of this presentation, looking at where their journal plans are, a link to their journal plans in the process. Many of them are undergoing updates to their journal plans. Some are just starting that process and embarking on that, and others are still relying on their journal plans that are quite older now. In context, the state legislator and the governor has adopted a tremendous amount of bills in and around housing and the housing issue. So we wanted to be able to put those all in one place so that the commission could understand what are the approaches that are being taken to address that issue. As we know, much of the discussions around the spheres of influence is about growth and where they're going to have an opportunity to provide much needed housing within the region. And so we wanted to have a report that provided all of these laws contextually for the commission. And then lastly, at the back end of the report is an analysis of where each of the cities and the county as a jurisdiction are at with meeting those RHNA targets. So every year they have to produce a progress report, turn it into the state. So we were able to glean that latest report that they've produced. This is all 2025 data. April is the deadline in which they have to submit their new report. So in another month or two, they're going to be presenting the 26 data. And this is in context to the great demand on the need for housing, but what's the reality of actually producing the housing and what are the income targets that are being produced? And so this report provides that summary for the commission. And so with that, I think I'll just briefly state that this was just really intended to provide information for the commission as you begin to start to contemplate what spheres of influences would be appropriate for our upcoming decision for all the 8 cities. So,
I understand that the RENA obligations are for cities and counties, right?
Correct.
But we don't regulate the county.
Correct.
Is there any background information on the county's RENAs that might be useful in this report?
Yeah, so we provided the county RENA targets and what they're meeting. It's useful to know because oftentimes the county is meeting those demands in already populated, unincorporated communities, which often sit in and around incorporated cities.
So is this, is the intent, the report's been done, I gather, right?
The report is
here.
Is here. It's part of the package.
Is it your intention to put it on our website?
It's on the website under this meeting for March 5th.
Yeah. I don't know what else we do other than accept the report. If you wanted to put it separately on the website, it might be useful to people. Other than that, I don't think there's any action.
Yeah, this was a receive and file informational item just to give the commission an update of where are our communities at in meeting those targets. What are all the pressures that they are having to deal with all of the new housing laws that are going into effect? And ultimately, you know, what are the cost index? We did a whole sort of cost index, what it costs to live in the county, what do apartment rents look like. Obviously, the goal is to try to produce as much housing that meets the affordability targets. How well are we doing at that, right? So that's what this report kind of provides, a brief look at what that looks like as we begin to embark on where should we draw spheres for these cities.
Thank you. Shall I ask any commissioners have any questions or comments about this?
Yes, Commissioner Stark, I thought we were going to hear the report.
Mr. Prater?
That was a brief summary of that report. I wasn't going to go through the 200-plus bills and what they're striving to get at, given that we are running along on this meeting. If there are questions about the report itself or about the numbers in the report.
I have a suggestion. Here's my suggestion. We receive the report. We can continue it to next month. Commissioners have specific questions about items in the report, can bring it up after digesting the thing in full, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them at the next meeting. So,
happy to do that. We can bring it back at our next agenda item and get into more depth conversation and questions if the commission has any.
And this is Commissioner Hartman. I just had a question. Have you shared this with the cities, with SBCAG, the county, to get their? I mean, I think it's a valuable resource. I didn't know that LAFCO was producing it. I do think it merits greater discussion, and I do think it deserves being shared widely.
We're happy to share this with those agencies.
I think it'd be definitely you ought to share it with the county and definitely with SBCAG, who after all is the people that's ultimately in charge of getting the allocations. So if we can do that, we can move on. Do we need a motion?
Chair and Commissioners, can we just do a check for public comment, please?
Oh, do we have any public comment on this item? Thank you.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. Do we need a motion to do this? I don't think so. I think, that would bring us,
Chair
business
Shea?
item number 3, yes.
I have we do have someone here that will be speaking on item number 5.
It looks like
is,
Mr. Lloyd, is that
yeah,
correct?
Mark Lloyd.
I haven't
think
seen him in
he's
20
right here,
years.
And I think it's actually important because he actually should be here. We should take the time.
Well, I would certainly deserve courtesy. With liberty, I'd call information item number 5.
Yeah, since he's here to speak. He's going
Yes, out of order. Please call information number 5, Madam Clerk.
Information item number 5 is to receive and file a report on file number 2601 for El Capitan Horse Ranch Sphere of Influence and annexation to the Goleta Water District.
Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair. As the Chair is familiar and the Commission, whenever an application comes before the Commission that's submitted by a landowner or agent, the application is placed on your agenda for the next available agenda topic to announce that the application has been submitted. And so this is meeting that criteria. This is to amend the sphere and be annexed at the same time in a concurrent application of 201 acres into the Goleta Water District. So it has been submitted. It also starts the review period to go through the process, and it is currently going through that process. I do understand that the agent is here and would like to at least give some background on why they've submitted the application to the commission. So
I'd happy to, Mr. Lloyd.
Chair Starr, good to see you. Honorable Commissioners, my name is Mark Lloyd with L&P Consultants, representing the landowner in this application. You'll have to excuse me, I'm fighting a cold today, as many of us are. I understand there's no action on this item. This is an informational item docketed for your knowledge. However, I'm here to answer any questions and just wanted to give you some brief background as to why our request for annexation and sphere of influence with the Goleta Water District. El Capitan Horse Ranch, many of you may be familiar with it. It's along the Gaviota coast. It's a 201-acre property. It has about 40,000 square feet of development on it, or floor area, mainly consisting of horse paddocks and corrals and other buildings to house horses. It has a number of CUPs for farm employees, for commercial polo activities, for commercial hiking and camping, and also some chuck wagon dining. And however, the new owner wants to revitalize the ranch and get a top quality horse breeding, boarding, and training facility going. We are currently served by the El Capitan Mutual Water Company, and for the 201-acre property, we are allocated 30 acre-feet a year, which is enough for our potable uses, but barely enough for 200 horses and other pasture irrigation purposes and whatnot. As a comparison, the 10-acre estates properties that are adjacent to us and also fellow members of the Mutual Water Company, they have 10-acre properties, they get 30 acres. So we have a deficit. We're looking to supplement our agricultural water and have made this application to LAFCO for that purposes. This will be a non-potable water delivery out of the Goleta West conduit, and will serve for irrigation and animal hydration purposes. So just a brief presentation to you. When we're before you in the months to come, I'll have a much more detailed presentation for you, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jenny. Commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Aceves has it.
You mentioned Goleta West, so is Goleta West and Goleta Water?
No, Goleta West conduit, I'm sorry. The large water conduit that goes out through the West Gaviota area.
Not Goleta West Sanitary?
No, Goleta West conduit is it, it's called.
Goleta has to be the name of the pipe, right?
Of the pipe itself.
Yeah. I was awake. I was listening to this.
Yeah.
Are there any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. Lloyd or
I had a quick question.
Mr. Nelson?
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Nelson?
So you said you guys are going to pursue a CUP for a horse, was it breeding facility? And I'm just curious on the permit pathway and what permit you'll be looking for.
Perhaps you misunderstood. We currently have CUP for breeding facilities and boarding facilities there.
So you're not going to be looking for any new entitlements?
We are likely to do an amended development plan. We have a development plan that was approved in 2010 for the property for some remodeling. We are looking to make extensive remodels of the buildings that are there, no expansion of square footage. As you likely know, the facility, its essence was about 1968, and here we are some 60 years later, and the construction was not of the highest quality. So my current owner is looking to renovate those and with probably some expansion of floor area. There is no primary residence on the property, probably be applying for that, and will likely be coming through a full county amended development plan process for that.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's an agricultural property and sounds like agricultural uses to me.
Yes, and this is the application. Again, this is non-potable water, so growth-inducing issues should not be at play.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there anyone else from the commission? Any members of the public?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. And Mr. Prater, am I correct? There's no action for the commission to take?
Correct.
Thank you for your report. Thank you for waiting around. Hope you found the robot discussion interesting.
Thank you, Chair Stark. Good to see you.
Thank you. This brings us to business item number 3, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Would the clerk please read business item 3 into the record?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 3 is to receive and file the 2025 audit report by David Farr, LLP.
Thank you, Mr. Prater. I note that I was given a letter to sign.
You were. I'm not sure we still have Shannon Ayala with us from Davis Farr, but Davis Farr was the independent auditor that prepared our financial audit for 25. So at least I'm here to answer questions that you may have, but essentially the audit shows that we have a positive net balance of approximately $32,000 at the end of that fiscal year. It shows that it was also a clean audit. And so if there's any specific questions that you might have, every year the commission does an audit of our finances, and we've entered into a contract with Davis Farr to review our audits all the way out till 2029. And so this is the early parts of their audit that they've been looking at. This is the second or third year that they've done it, and every one of them has come back clean and showing that we had a net but positive balance. Other than that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer any.
My sole question, is there any negative indications at all in this? Anything we need to watch as a result of this audit? Commissioner Sevis has got a question, I think.
Nothing came out of the audit that would trigger any additional oversight.
I just had a question on that goes out to 2029. Is that a normal practice? Don't we rotate it every so many years?
This commission had a normal practice of, I think, 15 years of doing audits, but what we do is after every 6 years, they find a different auditor within that office that looks at our books. So there will be rotation within oversight. It'll just continue to be with Davis Farr as the company.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that have any questions?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there are no requests to speak on this item.
And are we required to take any action with respect to this other than to receive and file it? Do we have to formally accept it or anything?
This is just a receive and file.
Thank you. I've signed the letter. If there's no members of the public, I think that concludes that item, which moves us to, got too much paper, I need my own robot. That would bring us to information item number 1.
Business item number 4.
Oh, business item number 4. Would you read that, please?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, business item number 4 is to consider a resolution authorizing commissioners to utilize Government Code Section 54953.8.7, teleconferencing for eligible multi-jurisdictional bodies.
Mr. Prater or counsel,
Chair.
whoever's going to.
I'll briefly just indicate that the commission requested that staff return with the resolution utilizing teleconferences for multi-jurisdictional bodies. This is based on the Brown Act update that was given to the commission back in January. So attachment A includes that resolution. So if you have any questions, legal counsel is here, and myself, we can answer any of them if you have any. That concludes our report.
I have a very simple question. I think I know the answer. My understanding is there's a provision in there that says that if a person takes advantage and participates remotely for home, they don't get a stipend. And that non-stipend provision is limited to meetings where people actually appear from home and doesn't affect any of the remaining stipend structure. Is that right?
Chair and Commissioners, that is correct. There is a limited provision for this type of teleconferencing that would prohibit compensation for attending the meeting if you chose to attend via teleconferencing. There are some other additional requirements on this type of teleconferencing, including that you must be at a location that's more than 20 miles away from the physical meeting location, which includes both the Santa Barbara and Santa Maria hearing rooms that we meet in. And also, you can only use this 2 times a year. But this is just an opportunity to provide the board another teleconferencing option. All the other options that we went through in the Brown Act are still available to the commission, and this would just be allowing you to have this new additional option for teleconferencing if you choose to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. Are there any commissioners have any questions? Seems pretty straightforward. Is there any comment from the public on this?
Chair Stark and members of the commission, there is no request to speak on this item.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion.
Nelson moves.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Guyer. Commissioner Hartman.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Patino.
Aye.
Chair Stark.
Aye.
Motion passes with 5 ayes and 2 absent.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the next item, which I believe is...
Actually,
Yeah.
with City Council Karakis absent, doesn't that tag in City Council Mosby to vote? I just want to make sure he gets a chance to vote appropriately.
Mosby.
Good one.
Aye. Motion passes with 6 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Motion carries. Would you please call the next item, which I think it's business item number 4.
Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 1 is to receive and file a report on the Independent Special District Commissioner election results.
Thank you, Mr. Prater.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. So a 45-day special district election has been completed, and it closed with a total of 23 votes cast. Commissioner Johnson received the majority of those votes and will now remain on LAFCO for a full 4-year term until 2030.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So, attachment B does include the independent special district ballot breakdown if you're interested on who voted for who. Otherwise, congratulations, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And thank you for all the support of our board commissioners and all the other districts. Thank you.
Where are we? That would be,
Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 2 is to hear an update from the 2026 Cal LAFCO staff workshop.
that would be Mr. Prater or me.
Again, so this is just to announce that the 2026 Cal LAFCO staff workshop will be held in Pismo Beach, so just up the coast. It's between May 6th and May 8th, and your staff has been already registered for that, so we will be sending likely 3 or 4 attendees, and that they offered a mobile workshop to tour and visit the Slow Farm tour, which was being offered. So your staff will report back at the conclusion of that meeting. On the 7th, we actually are scheduled to have a meeting, and so we will attend that. I'm still working out logistics. I think what we'll do is have staff attend in our remote Santa Maria location, and we'll see if we can't coax the chair maybe meeting us there for the 7th so that we can move back and forth between the staff workshop and our meeting on the 7th. Otherwise, we're scheduled to meet here in this building with a remote participation in Santa Maria. With that, if there's any questions about the conference itself, I would note that at the conference, they intend to provide some updates to the Cal LAFCO transition that's going on and what those next steps are. So we'll hopefully report out for that May meeting.
that would be my understanding, that they're going to report on the next thing that they wish to do. Am I correct? The next item would be information item number 3.
Yes, Chair Stark and members of the commission, information item number 3 is to receive and file a report on the Cal LAFCO 2026 current tract legislation.
So the legislative bills period has closed for this year. The Leg Committee has been gearing up for next year's proposals. In addition, Cal LAFCO tracks a number of bills. In this case, they're tracking 19 bills through the leg cycle for this year. And we're keeping those monitored and up to date. And attachment B includes those tracked bills. So if there's any questions about any one of those bills from the commissioners, we would likely ask that the commission ask us what bill you want more information on, and we can always bring that back for a new item.
Thank you. It might be appropriate at this point to note that, as I think our EO and Commissioner Kiriakou and I discussed, our big concern is the effectiveness of the legislative committee or the legislative process from Cal LAFCO. And I think that's a continuing source of concern, having enough juice, I guess is the correct term, to make our voice effectively heard. It's something to bear in mind. That leaves us information item number 4, am I correct? Oh, we're at commissioner announcements. Could I ask you a question? This is going to embarrass me deeply. I have a resolution approving the dissolution of Area 32. Is that from last meeting?
That is from last meeting that we're asking for a signature on.
All right, we're good. Commissioner announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? I'll announce that I'm going to report next month on the interesting CEQA conference that I attended. Rather than get into details, there's some things that probably warrant discussion, notably a flood of bills that are continuing as well. Just they keep piling it on. There's going to probably be an initiative which looks like it's gathering muster, which would make the CEQA process, I guess you could call it a process, even murkier than it is now. But we'll see. I'll do that next. I'll do that next month. Are we done?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn if we finish.
Executive officer report.
If you wouldn't mind, it'll be brief. It's the report out from the LAFCO February 23rd special board meeting. The report is that those bylaws were passed with a 40-2 vote approval by the membership. Although there were a handful of LAFCOs that did express concerns about allowing EOs to be on the board as elected along with elected members. Ultimately, it did pass 40-2.
They did not, however, am I correct? They did not, at this time, change the districts. They may do it at the next meeting.
We still have the 4 regions. They did move away from the board seat type, so we no longer we'll have a public county city special district. Now, anybody that wants to run for an open seat within your region, you can run as an elected through, and those are held annually at the annual conferences. Those are voted on by the delegates appointed by the commission. So when we had a public member, only the public member could run for that seat. Now that has been removed, any commissioner from any seat can run to be on LAFCO.
Did the concept that you can only have one board member per LAFCO, did that pass?
That passed as well.
So it can be any kind of board member, but only one per LAFCO.
Correct.
Cool. Are we good? Thank you all for bearing with us. It was a slog.